Let's talk about the probate process. Probate is what happens after death. All of the assets go into a probate process. Primarily today we're going to talk about the real estate assets because I'm a realtor. The biggest thing to understand is that if a will has been executed correctly, there's going to be an executor of the estate. The executor of the estate is not necessarily a beneficiary. They could be a third party, a trusted family member, or a friend who is just there to make sure that the will and the original requirements from the deceased party are honored. And so that executor is going to look through the will documents and work with a probate attorney to complete and file the probate. They have to open the probate with the state of Washington and declare all of the assets. And then over a 90-day period, everyone has an ability to assign debt to the estate. The reason that this is done is that we're no longer sure who the dead person owes money to. And so we have to make sure that all of those debts are paid before we start dispensing assets, because the deceased assets are only due to the inheritance cycle if everything is paid up in advance. And so if there's a huge balance of medical bills due to the state of Washington, everything could be sold and forced to be paid to pay off that debt. And so there are loads of situations where the estate may not actually be large enough to handle all of the encumbered debt. In that situation, there's not going to be any inheritance for any of the heirs. And so it's important to work with the appropriate parties to make sure that that debt is handled appropriately. For the sake of this conversation, let's assume that there is money left over in the estate, that there is a property that's maybe it's paid off and it needs to be sold. Maybe it's not paid off, but it has equity in it. The executor is going to have to work very quickly to make sure that the will is honored. If the property is said to be sold in the estate property documents, it's easy. We just list it for sale and we work with a real estate broker to get it sold after that 90 days in probate is complete. But once the probate is complete, the executor is given a document that essentially says you, on behalf of this estate, has the legal authority to dispense with all of the assets in the estate. At that point, they can begin signing them over to the different heirs or selling them and giving the money in the equity splits that's necessary to honor the will that is essentially a contract between all of the heirs.